Very powerful. I was just telling you before, the last night before. So tell them to start.
It's the last 3 shares of stuff. It's okay. It's
just tell me so I can.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Watch yourself.
Oh, but it's like in delay, yeah. I'm still drinking coffee. Alright, now I'm doing it. Okay. So I share it. Right, that's how you do it.
To your picture.
Yeah. And we'll start.
All good. Okay. So welcome back, everybody. It's been a while. Part of the reason was our live system was being upgraded. Now we have extremely fancy equipment in front of us over here.
I thought the problem was we didn't have coffee.
We had the coffee. Anyway, so we've upgraded and we're back with Coffee and Levi every week. We're doing it on Wednesday today because today is a special day, Yom Hazikaron, where we remember the fallen soldiers and victims of terror in Israel. And therefore we brought a special guest, our dear friend and neighbor, Rav Shua Solomon from Mizrahi, who has served in the IDF in the past. And therefore, first of all, I've always, I remember I introduced you to Shvuas the same way. Any Jew who served in the IDF deserves the thanks of every single Jew. So first of all, thank you for protecting our land and our people. And of course, it's a solemn day, I'm sure for everybody, but especially someone who served in the IDF. So the first question I wanted to ask you, and we'll take it from there. What got you to serve in the IDF? Did you grow up when you were 3 years old saying, my dream is to be in the army, or did that happen later, or what was the push for you to actually put your life on the line like that?
Good question. No, I can't pretend it was something I sort of dreamed of growing up. In fact, as you can imagine, I found that some of the physical parts of the army quite hard. No Rambo, but look, I went to Israel after high school. I was in Yeshivat Hesder, which combines learning with military service, and being in that environment, and not just that, but just the general feeling was that if you're going to be here, then you've got to find a way to contribute. And so sort of that's what happened. It actually all just quickly, because I like telling funny stories as well about the army. It all happened very quickly. I decided, within probably 2 or 3 months that if I'm going to do it, I've got to do it now. At the time I was 21 years old, and you have to go and get sort of your profile done. You're supposed to wait a few weeks. I didn't have a few weeks because I had to sort of enlist by a certain date. And I go to the Bakum, that's what it's called, and I say I'm here to sort of get my profile done, and they say, come back in 3 weeks. We don't have time for you now, come back in 3 weeks. So I didn't have 3 weeks. So I ring my friend and I said, they've told me 3 weeks, I don't know what to do. No, just go back and tell them you need to get it done. You need to get it done now. So I go back, I say, no, it needs to happen now, and all of a sudden I had an appointment half an hour later after, not having time for 3 weeks. So that sort of happened, and then
Israeli style.
Exactly. Very Israeli style, yeah.
And then a couple of months later I had a uniform on. So.
Wow. And you were in the army for how long?
Just over 16 months. So part of the Hesder program is 1 year and 4 months in the army. We actually ended with one of the operations in Gaza, so I ended up staying a couple of weeks on because I finished the army service. I was actually on a hike with a couple of army friends in southern Hebron, and we knew that things were heating up down south and it wasn't looking good. We didn't think we'd be called back, but one night when we're on this trip, we get a call saying, "You got to come back."
That's incredible. So, if I can just jump straight into that concept, I mean, that must make a week like this week when we read the news, and we all are concerned, obviously, and we're all thinking about Israel. But when you hear something happening on Gaza and all that stuff that's happening, that for you, that must be very different.
Yeah, I think for anyone that's experienced it, whether that's as a civilian living there or as a soldier sort of being on the border or even being in Gaza, it obviously means a whole lot more. It does bring back a whole lot of feelings and emotions. I remember being on that border and sort of got missiles flying everywhere and getting ready for
you were
war.
there, you know where it is.
Yeah, you're not sure exactly what's going to happen in just a few hours' time.
Wow.
It definitely does bring back those feelings, and I think just like a lot of things like that. It's hard to actually be able to know what it really feels like till if you have the unfortunate experience of having to go through it. So yeah, when you read about it on the news, for me it sort of does bring back a whole lot of other feelings.
Talking of feelings and making it personal, obviously a day like today specifically, remembering fallen soldiers, and I'm sure you know people, we were just speaking to someone last night at the Yom Hazikaron event who had to lost 5 friends in the army, and that's a lot of friends, to put into perspective. What type of feelings do you, if you can describe it as best as you can, do you feel today, on a day like today, where it's really more personal to you? It's personal to every Jew, obviously, but someone who actually was there.
Yeah, I think it's 2 things. One is that there's a lot of sadness. I lost a friend in the army.
Your own friend.
Yeah. I wasn't there with him when he died, but he was someone who was in my unit. Came in at the same time. A similar story happened to him at a different time. He was in the army for 3 years. He'd actually just been released. 2014, we know, was Protective Edge. Yeah. But unlike me, he was called back. A couple of years before that, the army didn't call him back. He went and said, no, I'm going into fight. And he lost his life. So there's a lot of sadness, a lot of memories of people who, especially on a personal level, of people who were very special people and are no longer with us and that no longer have the opportunities which all of us have. Yeah. Career, family, just to live life, and they, in their early 20s, their life was cut very short. But also, I think we've got to have a mix that. I guess also with Yom Ha'atzmaut coming up, that a feeling it wasn't obviously for nothing, and a feeling of hope, and also a certain feeling that this is, that he fought and unfortunately made the ultimate sacrifice in order for us, all Jews around the world, to have what we have today. Yeah. Exactly.
So I think that's a really Jewish thing, that to be able to combine those 2 things together and just say. It's unbelievably. When you think about, when you put it in terms of a young person, because they're all basically young people. Most of them, right? Some people have been around for longer, but you talk about young people.
18-year-olds.
But it's amazing that the sort of the country and the Jewish people are being protected by even the officers are only in 23, 24.
Yeah, people with a whole life ahead of them.
Yeah,
or should have. Yeah. That's incredible. Wow. Sure. So, just changing the topic a little bit. Because we're in Chutz La'aretz at the moment. We all hope to be in Eretz Israel soon, hopefully. But we're in Chutz La'aretz, and I always think that one of the things I think about, particularly on days like this, that we can't just sit back and do nothing. Everyone has to do what they can do, and obviously sitting here in Sydney, we can't physically participate in that kind of operation, but we can certainly have Eretz Israel on our minds, and it is on our minds the whole time, and it should be, as it's so central to Yiddishkeit. I think one of the things that we can do is we can certainly increase our own connection to Yiddishkeit and to Torah mitzvahs and to learning Torah. As we know, Torah protects and so on. So we can certainly do that. And therefore, I wanted to just connect this to something we're doing in the next few weeks together. I know that you're running part of Mizrahi, a project called Israel 360, which is an amazing learning program. You bring out a whole bunch of guests, and we're very fortunate here at BINA to do one of the programs with you. So just tell us about the program a little bit.
Yeah, no problem. The program was started by World Mizrahi, actually, Rav Doron Perez, that some people might be familiar with.
Sure, South African.
South African, exactly. I spent a number of years the Rabbi Mizrahi in South Africa. And he started a program that actually began last year, which we unfortunately missed a boat on it last year, but for Israel's 70th birthday, to bring speakers who are really doing amazing things in Israel and the religious Zionist world, to all over the world, Israel 360, to spread Torah, to spread Jewish learning, to spread the amazing things that are happening in Israel today. So we've brought 5 of those speakers in all different backgrounds. So we've got Rabbanit Shani Tarragon speaking here on the Sunday. This is the beginning, the weekend of Yom Yerushalayim. And we've got Shani.
So that's the one we're doing with you at BINA. We're going to have it
exactly.
On.
So
what's the date?
2nd of June. So it's the weekend of the first.
So it's that whole weekend that it's all happening,
that's
right?
all weekend. And Rabbanit Shani Tarragon, really an amazing speaker, well known across the world in Jewish education. Speaking Sunday morning, we've brought Rav Doron himself which is amazing that he's, because every week now as part of Israel 360 he's in a different country. But to come all the way to Australia is a different story, I think. So it's amazing that he's joining us as well. Rav Stav is coming. We've got the first ever Israeli Master Chef winner who was the first person in the world, I believe, to win only cooking kosher. Tom Franz is a German convert.
That's fascinating.
So that's amazing, and details for that are going to come out literally today, definitely either today or tomorrow. And Adir Schiffman, who's an Israeli, currently lives in Melbourne. He's made a real difference in the high-tech industry. So people from all different fields coming, running different events, different speeches, different talks, different shiurim all over Sydney. We're doing it together with Bnei Akiva, and obviously it's not just Mizrahi and Bnei Akiva, but we're doing events here at BINA and different shuls and organisations all over Sydney. We want everyone to be part of it. So
we just want to tell everyone to watch out for the updates and the details of the program. And yes, that's going to be an amazing week, and I think that's again connected with the schus of that learning for the people in Israel, the soldiers in Israel, our brothers and sisters in Israel in general. To just take it back a little bit to what we were talking about before, I'm just interested in one thing. I know you spoke about it here, Shavuos, I actually missed the talk. But I know we don't have a long time, but just a little bit, talk about some of the issues that come up in terms of when you're a soldier in the army, and you were yeshiva bach as well. So talk about some of the issues that come up in terms, just out of interest, like in terms of different halachas or different Torah mitzvahs issues that come up when you're in the army.
So I won't go into specific details, but obviously part of the amazing thing of the army, and especially for, it wasn't so different for me because I grew up in, and this is one of the amazing things about our community here and across Australia, you grow up with all types of different Jews within the Jewish community, and we all get on, and we all share a lot of common goals. So it wasn't so different for me, but you find a lot of these yeshiva boys, they did grow up only in a religious yeshiva high school, and very much I think we all live in a bubble, but their bubble's probably even smaller. And it's the first time they're exposed to people who are not exactly like them, who might not keep Shabbat, they might not keep Kashrut, and might have different different ways of doing things. And it creates, first of all, a cultural difference. I actually was amazed by how hard it was sometimes for them just to have, they were almost at the beginning scared to have a conversation. Not everyone, but some people. Just another very funny story. I was with another guy from Yeshiva, and we were going with our commander who was completely secular. And it was over, we were in a patrol Jeep on Friday night, which obviously there are questions about what you can and can't do within the patrol. You have to go on the patrol, but that doesn't mean you can do everything. So for example, obviously a religious person is not going to stop at a petrol station to buy something because it's Shabbat. You do the minimum.
You can do what you have to do.
You do the minimum of what you have to do. But obviously one of the things that you can't do to pass time, which on a regular weekday you would, is bring your phone.
That's right.
He could obviously, but we obviously didn't have our phones. And I didn't always see eye to eye with this commander, and I was kind of sitting at the back pretending to be asleep, so we didn't have to maintain conversation. And my friend from Yeshiva was a lot nicer than I was, so he was sitting at the front trying to be nice, and he starts, instead of making small talk, he starts saying to him all these sort of like Guinness World Record facts, right? Like, did you know that this is the tallest building in the world, and did you know that this is the tallest mountain in the world? And it was a very strange conversation. They thought I was asleep. Anyway, the commander turns to him and says, why are you telling me all of this stuff? To which he replies, the truth is, I didn't know what we were going to talk about all night, so I read up on some different facts to that's obviously really an extreme and just a funny story. But as well as the halachic issues, I think one of the amazing things about the army that we don't talk about enough is that it brings all types of different Jews and even non-Jews together. There are Druze and Bedouin that also serve in the army, and it's one big melting pot where people learn that we're all fighting together for a common goal, and we have a lot in common, and it's important to get on and be friends. And at the end of the day, the friendship in the army, as amazing as friendship is in I guess I don't want to call it civilian life, but the life we ordinarily live. When you know that you're putting your life on the line for someone else, I think that's a whole different level.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things also I think about today is coupled with the sadness, which is the reality of the people who lost their lives and paid the ultimate price, is the miracles that do happen, and that all the wars that Israel fought are just so riddled, I suppose, with so many open miracles. I mean, the whole, the fact that we're here, and the fact that it's thriving, and the fact that the 6-Day War, all the other wars, and so on. And I think it's an important thing to remind ourselves, I guess, that also. Just you see the Yad Hashem, and you see the miracles happen. And I guess we have to daven that soon Mashiach comes, and then we won't need the other part, we won't need the sad part, we'll just have the miracles. We'll just have it.
So I mentioned this story actually this morning in my shiur, and it's something I think to bear in mind in Yom Hazikaron. It's a story about Professor Oman, who lives in Rehavia in Yerushalayim, and he was a winner. The reason why he might be well known is that he was a Nobel Prize winner in economics. And there's a story that he unfortunately had a son that he lost in the army, fighting for the state of Israel. And there was a rabbi who lived in Rehavia at the time. I've actually forgotten his name. Not necessarily associated with Zionist sort of principles. In fact, I think he was a very well-known rabbi and very well respected across Israel. He was, I think, the Rosh Hashiva of 770 for a certain amount of time, so you might remember his name. Rav Guzman, exactly. Rav Guzman. And so Rav Guzman came to pay a shiva call to Professor Oman. They lived in the same area in Yerushalayim, and Rav Guzman had lost, I believe... So
he was the Rosh Hashiva 770, but he wasn't a Chabadnik at all, actually.
Yeah, exactly. So he, when I was living in Rehavia, his son-in-law was actually the Rosh Hashiva still of that sort of yeshiva, which was close to where we lived, and I used to ask him questions about Rav Guzman, who is well known across Israel, very well respected character. And Rav Guzman went to pay a shiva visit. Rav Guzman, I believe, had also lost children in the Holocaust, definitely lost family in the Holocaust. They were unfortunately commiserating together about how much the Jewish people have been through, that even after we have a state of Israel, there are still Jewish boys and girls losing their life in the army and in terror attacks. And Rav Guzman turned to Professor Oman and says, how in some ways, ashrecha, the praise to you that you were able to have a child who was defending the state of Israel. And another tragedy, unfortunately, just like we saw this week, there are still tragedies and people who are losing their lives and having their lives cut short. But as well as that, and as we sort of transition from Yom Hazikaron to Yom Ha'atzmaut, important to remember that they fought to keep the state of Israel alive, and to continue the miracles that Rabbi Garari was talking about, that we see Yad Hashem. We can see it. It's not something that we talk about. It's actually something that we see with our own eyes. Yeah.
Amazing. So thank you so much.
Thanks so much for joining us.
And again, remind everyone, it's the 16th of June weekend.
No. 1st and 2nd of June.
Sorry, 1st and 2nd of June. I'm very bad at remembering days.
3.5 weeks time.
3.5 weeks time, 1st and 2nd of June weekend.
Israel 360. Look out for it.
360. Look out for all the details. And participate, and let's learn together, and hopefully only have simchas in the future.
Amen.
Thank you so much.
Shkoyach. Sure.